Hello, and welcome back to the Let's Talk Moshiach podcast. I am Yisrael Goldstein, and with us today is a very, very special guest, Rabbi Nochum Shtroks, who has for many, many years been leading the message, bringing out the message, teaching the message, spreading the message, and having amazing successes in bringing it to people, answering questions, figuring out the details. And this is why it's such a special opportunity for us to have Rabbi Nochum here on the show, particularly because what we're trying to do here on this program is we're trying to open up this conversation. We're trying to finally figure it out, to get to the bottom of it. Because sometimes it seems like another day goes by, another week goes by, another month goes by, another year goes by, and it's almost like, what's the story? What's going to be? Have we gotten stuck? Have we, we were going on this project, this mission that the Rebbe was telling us about, that we're coming closer and closer to the actual imminent time of Moshiach, and now it seems like some people have an impression that life just goes on now, and we just go on in life, another day and another day and another year, and that's it. That's what it is. And the truth of the matter is, that if we examine what the Rebbe is telling us in the Sichos, we have a mission right now to really finish the job and make it happen. It's almost like, in a certain sense, of course, in some sense, in a big sense, it's up to the Eibishter. The Eibishter has to really trigger actually bringing about Moshiach, and he should have already done so a long, long time ago. But at the same time, almost paradoxically, but still truthfully, we have to do our part. And I don't know if that really means you could say that if we do our part, then it happens, and if we delay doing our part, then it delays happening. I don't know if we could say such a thing or not, but there really are some additional steps and things we need to say and do, and it sometimes feels like we've gotten a little stuck or inhibited or hesitant of going where we need to go, say what we need to say, do what we need to do to really finally make it happen already. So I think this is a very, very appropriate topic to bring you on board and hear what you have to say about it. If you can first maybe just give us a little bit of an introduction of what's been your role about this topic in recent years. What are you up to, and what have you been involved with? Just to get a little idea of what...
Okay. My role in this is, because I believe that everything that we need to know about Moshiach has already been explained to us by the Rebbe. We shouldn't have any dilemmas. We shouldn't be having any questions, because there is everything there. The fact that everything is there already available for us is, where do I know that from? So I think that is written clearly in all the sichos. You read all the sichos, you see it everywhere. The Rebbe is sort of saying, I've told you, I've explained you, etc., etc. So I feel that there is nothing there that we cannot understand, we should not be understanding. It's all been there explained to us. And if there's anything that we don't understand, then the solution is very simple. You just go and open up the sources. You have the sichos of the Rebbe. Open it up, and we should find all the answers there. Okay, that's what I think. Okay, well, that's
Absolutely, yeah. So we just gotta open it up and learn and read. That's it. It's as simple as that. You're right. Absolutely.
Okay,
And is there some hiccup with that? Do you feel like maybe some of us, I don't know, are we not doing the best job of looking in and reading and understanding what it's saying? Are we afraid to see what it says there? Is it too much for us? Is it too intense? Is it too true? Are we avoiding it? Is that happening sometimes?
I don't believe anyone is avoiding it. I believe there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of dilemma going on, and people are not fully aware how the Rebbe really, really told us everything. Mamish told us everything. The premise that there is some doubt of where we are now and where we should be, the actual premise is coming from lack of understanding what the Rebbe has been telling us. There shouldn't be any room for such doubt, any room for any dilemmas at all. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Do you think it's correct to say, again, this is because here on this program, I'm just trying to say it for what it is, even if sometimes it's a little bit over the top or a little bit out of the box. But one day we got to deal with this. One day we got to figure this out and take care of it and do it. So I'm just wondering, is it correct in some sense to describe that for a while the Rebbe is telling us all about Moshiach, in a sense, it's almost like the Rebbe Kaviyachol had a frustration about it. He's trying to tell us about it, and it's almost like we didn't want to believe it, or we didn't understand it, or we didn't buy it, or we vehemently opposed it, maybe even sometimes, or we didn't want to understand what it meant. And the Rebbe is trying to get the message across that, come on, it's already here. The reality is already true. I can show you this way, that way, from Torah, from the whole entire Sikha. People take little quotes out of a Sikha. The Sikha has a whole entire build-up of how the Rebbe bases it on the Parsha of the week and the Pasuk in Torah and what that lesson teaches us and how it's pertinent in our days and how we see that in Chassidus and we see it in Beruchnius and Begashmius, etc., etc. It goes through a whole build-up to a point where the Rebbe shows us how we need to understand right now and learn and realize that we're in a different reality than what we think we are. We mamash have a perception that things are in one way, and the truth of the matter, which is something that only a tzaddik like the Rebbe would see, is a totally different reality. But perhaps that was just like so intense for us of a realization, of a shift in our mindset, that it's almost like the Rebbe might have tried once and tried again and tried in another way and in this way and in that way. And sometimes just outright telling us to, in a sense, if we could say, to the face, so to speak, like, guys, I'm telling you, this is a reality that's right now, that we need to finish it, we need to do it. Come on, get your act together, do it. I'm not saying the Rebbe's exact words, obviously, I'm paraphrasing in my own way, but is it the case that the Rebbe, was frustrated at how things were progressing, or should I say not progressing as well? If we were really fully believing what the Rebbe is telling us, we would have already been in a totally different situation by now, but we have some hesitations to overcome that was a hindrance over multiple years. What do you think?
Okay, let me say. You asked me about frustration. Yeah?
Right.
Okay. Let's not leave that out.
Really?
That frustration. I mean, you want to asking me about the Rebbe.
Right. We can't know. We can't. You're right.
I don't.
I hear.
Okay, that's number one.
I guess I'm asking about that because personally, for me, it at least it seems to me on a personal level, I sometimes feel some of that frustration myself, and I wonder whether that was sometimes what was being kind of apparent from the Rebbe also, that imagine really in a real way that you were able to tell somehow, maybe the Eibishter showed you or something, that really we are already in the time of Geula for a long time already, 30 years, 40 years, and then you knew this for a fact somehow, and you were trying to figure out how can we convince everyone that that's the case, that that's really is what we are now. And it's like, oh my goodness, this is impossible. Everyone really thinks and believes that we're still in a different situation, that it's still a different story. And I'm trying to tell people, I'm trying to explain people, and it's just so difficult to get the point across. Obviously, there were many Chassidim actually that from earlier on, we must admit, they actually did chap what's happening. They really did understand. They really did figure out, and they were, from earlier on already, figuring it out and going along with it and trying to spread the word and make it happen. But for many of us, perhaps it was a difficult thing. But I'm sorry, I interjected over there. Please go ahead with what you were saying.
So, number one,
Please
you asked me, the Rebbe was frustrated. I mean, every chassid feels the truth. I don't have to answer to that. I mean, you said you feel something. Okay, so every chassid. Okay, so why do I have to answer that? Okay,
fair enough.
Maybe
that's true.
The truth is too harsh to say. I mean, let's look. Okay.
Absolutely. Fair point.
Then there's the other thing you said. You mentioned believe. If we would really believe. So let's just understand something. Gula is not about only believing. Every Yid always believes. Gula is really more about, let's see, number one, understanding. Gula means, in other words, in Zman of Golus, we may believe, we may trust, because the circumstances are not the way we'd like them to be. So nevertheless, we still believe and we still trust. Zman Gula means that we actually appreciate what's going on and we understand, we see, etc., etc. So saying that we really believe, l'cheda, that is not sufficient. And especially the Rebbe has explains us in many places. The Rebbe explains us that believing, real belief, means that you understand also. So if we're talking about Gula, l'cheda, we should be talking more about truth is the Lashon HaRogel Ani Ma'amin, but we look at the Rebbe's Sikha, the Rebbe keeps on saying, you understand, Arboim Sham, the Rebbe is talking more about understanding, seeing, etc., understanding. That's understanding. And the other thing you asked about Gula being here for 40 years, the Maisi is, if you look at the Rebbe's Sikhas, I don't think you'll find anywhere a description as Gula being here for 40 years. Yeah, you may find here and there some subtle inference to that. You may, true. But generally, the thought of the Rebbe Sikhas is Gula was here in many different stages. You have the Gula was here before Bris Olam.
Right.
That is Sikha Pasha's Teitzei to Nun Aleph. When the Rebbe started moving over to speaking about Gula in a present tense, it started from slightly after that, going into the the winter of Nun Beis. So the first thing the Rebbe says in the Sikha of Pasha Teitzin on Av explains how the Gula was actually here going back from before Bris Olam. Then you have the Sikhas from all the years where the Rebbe talks about the Gula started with the Churban Beis HaMikdash, or the Gulas, or you have the Sikha, the Rebbe says Yosef went down to Mitzrayim, he went to Chetchila with the Gula. This is not only Yosef, but all the others, the Shvatim. So the idea of being the Gula being here in the past, in the present, it's a general mahalach of the Rebbe everywhere. The Rebbe always engages the idea that the Gula is actually an action, a different level, whatever you want, whatever you choose, whatever you understand. There's always the Gula here. Okay, then, yeah. So.
Interesting. So all along,
yeah,
right? Because that's the idea that the Rebbe teaches about turning Goyla into Geula, is to realizing how all along, even the Golus was all along actually the Eibishter's plan. It had a purpose, and as such, it's part of the story of how we reach Geula, and that makes that Golus itself, in a sense, was Geula all along, and we just have to. The time has come for us to realize that, right? Something like that.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's the idea. Okay, great. So tell me something about what do you think maybe is the Eitzah that maybe we could do, or what's the next step perhaps that we as Chassidim that we live among our community, Chabad Lubavitch, we have so many colleagues out on Shlichus all around America, all around the world. We have so many different communities of Yidden all around us. And we do Mivtzoim, and we try to go out and help another Jew and bring more Yidden back to Yiddishkeit, or revealing them that they were always all along in Yiddishkeit, etc., etc. What do you think is the next step we could do to bring this truth about the reality of Moshiach, to the next step, so that we don't have to chas v'sholem, let's say, if we want to speak in very, very cynical terms, we don't have to chas v'sholem come back in another week or month or year and sit back down at this table and say, what are we going to do now to bring Moshiach even further, to bring Geula even further? What's the next step we could do to continue to progress the mission onwards? Because it seems like I might be wrong. I would love to find out that I was wrong, but tell me, what can we do so that we're further along in the idea that Moshiach is here, Geula is here, and it's really a reality in the world? Like, personally, I've been taught many, many times that that's true, and that, like you said, all we got to do is just learn the topics, learn the subjects, learn the sources, see how this comes straight out of Torah, and realize how, if it is really true, then technically, what are we waiting for? Why don't we just get our act together, get active, and make it happen? What's your thoughts on that?
The Rebbe says, the way the Rebbe puts it is that there is no reason why anyone in this world should not identify with the idea of Gula being here. Meaning to say that we are in Golas, but in essence and in potential and ability, etc., the Gulas here, just we have to sort of bring it into our lives, etc., etc. So from the Rebbe is very clear that there's no reason why no one in the world shouldn't fully identify with it and realize it on their own, because it's the obvious is right out there for all of us. This is the way the Rebbe puts it. It's the way the Rebbe puts it more or less all the years. The fact now, asking myself, do I really do I understand what the Rebbe is saying? So if I don't understand, so there's one very positive solution. Okay, let's take the Rebbe is telling us, it's very obvious. It's there. It's being given to us. We just have to sort of align with it. Align with what he's saying. So I don't fully understand it. I haven't fully implemented it into my life, etc., etc. So this is a very simple solution. Okay, let's take again, see what the Rebbe is saying. Rebbe says he explained it to us, he's given it to us. I'm sure if we'll take it again, we'll look at it and we'll try to understand. I'm sure we'll understand it. So the answer is very simple. Just let us try and understand what the Rebbe is saying.
I mean, what happens in situations where perhaps, let's imagine there are two Chassidim who are looking at a snippet, a piece, a paragraph of what the Rebbe taught us, in the Sichis, in Amorim, whatever it is, and one Chassid says, it's not that I don't understand, I do understand what it says here, and he points to the words and gives an explanation and understands the Rebbe is saying such and such and such. And another Chassid feels like, no, that's not necessarily the true, correct pshat. If you look, this is the understanding of what's going on over here. The Rebbe is saying this over here. And the other Chassid said, no, it's not necessary that's the conclusion, that's the way how to read it and to learn it and to understand it. And if we want to be completely frank, there have been situations like this already in the past years, where this wasn't just as civil a discussion as I just painted it out to be. Sometimes, unfortunately, things have reached a point of controversy and an opposite of Avos Yisrael, and you know, it's almost like a famously known thing out there that everyone likes to bring up and talk about and tease about, is how Lubavitch is embroiled in a dispute, and there's the one side and there's the other side, and there's the so-called Meshechisten and there's the so-called antis and whatever names they call, and as such, you know, this continuously seems to be a bane in the discussion and the conversation of progressing further and really understanding what the Rebbe is telling us. How do you think we can resolve this effect, I guess, of Talmidei Rabbi Akiva in a way, where one Talmid of Rabbi Akiva understood one thing and another Talmid of Rabbi Akiva understood another thing, and they just couldn't tolerate that the other one got it wrong, and that they're reading the words wrong, and that they're understanding it wrong and going about it wrong, and this perceived wrongness is on both sides, so to speak, of the understanding. You know, everyone is, in a sense, pointing a finger at someone else and saying, you didn't figure it out. So how can we move past that? How can we figure that out? Maybe we should have, like, I don't know, we should have like a panel of respected Chassidim that sit at a table and read through a Sikha and once and for all come to some sort of consensus or conclusion about what the Rebbe is really telling us and what it really is about, or what do you think we can do about such?
I've been speaking to people about Moshiach for several years, quite some years. I've spoken to almost every faction of Lubavitch, different as individuals, on different individuals from different, if you want to say however many divisions there are, you know, with everyone.
So you've been doing this for a while, just without the microphones.
I don't know.
Basically, you've been talking to a lot of people.
I've never encountered such a situation, so I'm not sure what.
Really?
I've never encountered such a situation.
Wait a minute, let me try to be even more cynical here. Who have you been talking to? Maybe you've been talking to people which some might consider only on one side of the aisle, but not necessarily to people that people might consider of the other point of view of thinking. Is that possible? Or you've spoken mamash to many, every... all of them, huh?
Any person.
Okay.
On both sides of the aisle, they will say it's mostly the let's say the Das Torah of Lubavitch, the Rosh Yeshivas, the Mashpim, Rabbanim, etc. Several shluchim, quite many shluchim, Baruch Hashem. I've spoken to from both sides.
And
Yeah.
and you say that you've never really encountered a situation where they didn't understand things the way that you understood things, or that.
I never encountered a situation that someone should totally disagree. I have this situation, people say we have to think about it, etc., etc.
Uh-huh.
And I would really appreciate if they would put their minds to think about it more, so it may help things to go along easier. But Baruch Hashem, I've never had a situation where someone should disagree or have
Or argue or dispute.
I haven't had such a situation.
Okay, so
I don't think so. Okay.
So first of all, I think this itself is a worthwhile phenomena to share with people out there watching, that it is possible actually to carry on a civil, rational discourse about what the Rebbe is saying, opening up the sources, reading what it says, learning it, understanding it together, and figuring out what the Rebbe is saying in a rational, civil, truth exploration manner, and everyone can hear each other out, and everyone can bring forth their thoughts and their ideas of how they think it means this, or it might mean that, etc., etc. It's not impossible. And the reason why I think it's important to bring out this idea is because I'm from the up and coming kind of younger generation, in a sense. I mean, years are going by, but there's still a lingering feeling by many, I think, of us Bachrim that grew up in yeshiva in recent years and are just getting started, settled in life, and there is still, I feel, a lingering feeling that it is very tense, and it is very combative, and it is a very controversial situation, to a point where it almost feels like it's preferable not to go there. We prefer to just, let's not even bring up this whole topic of Moshiach. Let's not even go there. It's too complicated. It's too controversial. It's going to rub people in too many wrong ways, that it's easier to just, how about life is all about just doing Torah mitzvahs, which of course is good and it's important, and it's about going out on shlichus, and it's about doing mivtzayim, and it's about having a nice good kiddush on Shabbos with some good crackers and herring and some good cholent, and that's what life is about. Oh, and maybe as years go on and life gets more interesting and more influences of the outside world make their headways into our communities, then maybe it also becomes interesting to start dressing more in this way or that way or the other way, or to start exploring these, now we're all into what's the latest device, and which phone do you have, and which one do I have, and what's the latest thing that's going on in the news, and what happened with Trump lately, and this and that and the other. Those things is okay to talk about. It's acceptable to carry on a conversation about all these regular topics, but when it comes to bringing up, hey, we are Chabad Lubavitch, we have a mission that is yet outstanding. It's like the file is still sitting there on the Rebbe's desk, open, waiting for us Hasidim to take it on, finish it, complete it, and make it happen. And that conversation, that topic is a little bit like, how about we move on to something else? That's not, it's become an uncomfortable topic almost, which is also part of the reason why I'm trying to do this program here, is to try and help really myself and hopefully maybe more Yidden out there to try and realize, hey, it's okay. We can talk about this. It doesn't have to be combative. It doesn't have to be negative. It doesn't have to be in a controversial kind of way. And all we got to do, like you say, is just open up the sources, read it, learn it, and figure it out. And yes, we can do it in a positive way and in a constructive way. So have you maybe brought us some interesting materials here that maybe might be worthwhile going through? Tell us what you've been working on and how do you think it could help maybe to all this?
I do have some material here. The question is if you want to hear it. The question is, I quoted it
maybe just a little bit, a snippet, something, an idea.
I'm going to tell you right now. I'll tell you
all right,
right now.
Let's hear it.
Okay. I'm not going to give you a snippet. I'm not going to give you a little. I'm not going to give you a little idea. I can do this with you. I can go through this with you. But it shouldn't take long. But you have to understand, you're going to take this And if you don't understand it, you tell me you don't understand it. If you do understand it, you do understand it. That means I'm not going to give you a snippet. No, it has to make full sense. Because if it doesn't make full sense, I haven't said anything. I haven't said anything.
So this is
this is now. I want you to know this is 10 pages.
Oh wow.
Okay. So it's 10 pages. It's one topic, one of the first topics. It's usually the first topic I put out.
Do you have a copy for me?
2 copies. That's
Perfect.
right.
Excellent. So, is this a phenomenon that happens often, by the way? Is that if we take like a little paragraph or a snippet out of what the Rebbe is saying, that's when we can have misunderstandings, we can have different people saying, oh, it means this or it means that, but that's because we don't have the full learning, the full understanding, the full picture.
I'm not sure if it's that. I think it is putting your mind into it. In other words, when you're taking something, yeah? So my name is Nochum Shtroks, his name is Yankel Chaim. Yankel Chaim may get it in 1 minute, maybe it's going to take me 20 minutes. The Nekuda is, the Rebbe has told it to us, and the Rebbe says, we can understand it, so I must be able to understand it. So me as an individual, I have to make sure that I take this, I'll deal with it till I understand it. So maybe sometimes the snippet can be enough. But the precondition is, yes, I could understand it. So our goal is to understand.
Okay, so I don't know how far we'll get, but let's try to see how much we can cover. And I'm sure some interesting questions and topics will come up along the way.
So let's make things easier. I will not go with this unless we go with this till you understand it. Now you may tell me you want to rethink it. I have no problem with that. But I will not go with it unless you want to understand.
So you're saying we won't go further
we don't have to start if we are not ready to
go
to understand what we're saying. If it's not understood, we haven't brought out, the point is not brought out, then we don't have to start, because the only thing is, remember, we're presuming that based on what I was told that we can understand it. So if we're going to take it and just to hear the word, no, there is right. The goal is set.
There's a problem.
The goal is set right up front.
Right.
The Rebbe has told us we can understand it. If I don't understand it, there's something wrong with me, or maybe there's something the way I presented the material. I don't know. There has to be understood. That is the precondition.
And taking half of it or a piece of it, you're saying there's a problem with that. There's something wrong with not being able to go through the whole concept.
You don't get the thing. No, there's something wrong. We're not aligning with the Rebbe. The Rebbe said it's clear. There shouldn't be any room for doubt. Right?
Right here.
So if you want to have the Advari say to this, I'm sorry. No. This is close. Really much understand.
I think let's go for it.
You have to be. It's going to take a while. You have to absorb information. Absorb it. Then you can always listen. You have it. You can always take it for yourself. Think over, come back. That is not an issue, but you have to.
Okay, let's go for it.
Okay. I'll try and do it as fast as possible.
Let's do.
Okay, we're starting off with the first line here. The first line is line 1. Right? You see these words? This is something we learn when we're at a young age. We know what it means? Okay, so we're going to remember this line. Please remember it. Why? Because I have to go through all the 10 pages. What we're ultimately going to see, what it says in this line here. In other words, whatever we knew when we were Ben Chumash Lemikra, when we learned Chumash, what we understood in this pasuk, this is the answer to all the questions. Okay? It's all there. It's all there. That means it's all there. We're going to go now, extend, bring down different sources, the ways, explain different places. We're going to come back to this one point, because this pasuk answers every single question we had. Okay? Say no. Wonderful. Okay. So here we have which basically means that Hashem has promised, that tells us we do the Torah mitzvah. He's giving us the Torah, and if we do what the Torah says, He gives us everything. The world is ours, but there's one condition. I'm giving you the key. The key is the Torah. Do the Torah mitzvahs. You do the Torah mitzvahs. The world is yours. Okay. Wonderful. Okay, fine. Now we have the Rambam Hilchos Tshuva, lines 2 to 5, where the Rambam says you should know that true. The Torah says that we do Torah mitzvahs, then we have everything is, the world is ours, but nevertheless there is something called Golus. In that time we are restricted in our ability to keep Torah mitzvahs, and then we cannot keep all the Torah mitzvahs, and therefore we don't have all the brachas. So even though the Torah tells us, Hashem has told us that He has given us a Torah which gives us all the brachas, we have the world is ours. There are certain times when that is not fully realized, and where that in Golus, because we don't have the full ability to keep Torah mitzvahs. Fine. Then let's go over to line 6, where the Rebbe, this is the Igros Kodesh, where the Rebbe says, going back from before the Nesias, what is your Moshe Mashiach? Your Moshe Mashiach is a time when we will have the ability to do everything. In other words, in Zman Golus, it's the same thing what the Rambam is telling us. In Zman Golus, we're restricted in our ability to do things, and Moshe Mashiach, no, we're going to have the ability, and that is your Moshe Mashiach, our ability to do everything. That is your Moshe Mashiach. Have you heard of Moshe Mashiach being as Tzcha? The Zman of Tzcha, the Mochel Kapes Choram. Do you align your Moshe Mashiach as being the Mochel Kapes Choram? Do you align? Maybe you do. Yeah. So now you see what the Rebbe says here. You see that the time of doing of action. Okay, very good. Let's carry on. Then you have the same thing in line number 7, which is the sichas, the terms which we all know. The Rebbe said, explained this very clearly from the Rambam. The word of the Moshe Mashiach. The Zman of Shleimus Kima Teira Mitzvahs. It's the Zman of doing Teira Mitzvahs, right? The Shleimus. In other words, in Golus, we cannot do all the Teira Mitzvahs. And Moshe Mashiach will be the full Shleimus of doing Teira Mitzvahs. So, again, what is the Moshe Mashiach? It's all about doing things. And now, currently, I cannot do everything I'm in Golus. What's going to happen in Moshe Mashiach? I'm going to have the ability to do everything what Hashem wants me to do. So again, Moshe Mashiach is all about doing Teira Mitzvahs Avodah. Fine, very good.
Let's say, in contrast to what? Perhaps there's a perception out there that the times of Moshiach is already the time where we sit back, relax, and receive reward, or what is this?
So,
what are you pointing this out in contrast to?
So this is exactly what we want to get to. Very good. We're getting to this. That we are always envisioning Moshe Mashiach as time when we're going to sit back and relax and get the reward, which has in it truth. It has truth in it, but we are not saying the full, we're not including the full picture. So what we're bringing out over here is very clearly that the Moshe Mashiach is primarily the time when we're going to do things. Now we'll get to this point you just now mentioned. Here you have a quote from in line 9 to line 13 from Hadan al-Aram and Toshin on base. And here the Rebbe is telling us he's not the Moshe Mashiach. The Rebbe is going much further. He's going over now to Tchias HaMesim. He's telling us, what is Tchias HaMesim? Tchias HaMesim is going to be a time there won't be the Metzias Ha'odam. Me, I won't be there. The Metzias are the word the Mitzuvah. Me, are the one who's being commanded to do the mitzvahs, I will not exist. The mitzvah will exist. That means I will automatically do, nowadays I have to overcome myself to do a mitzvah, then I'm going to do it automatically, naturally, So the mitzvah will remain my mitzias, my interference, etc. That will not be there. So what we see here, that even we come to Moshe Mashiach, what you just now described, and we're going to sit back. So we see from the Rebbe sitting back means that my interference won't be here. So I'm going to do it naturally, but what is going to remain, I'm going to be doing. So what Moshe Mashiach is primarily about is about doing, and that is the okay, fine. Now let's go further. So now here we go into now we will go a bit faster. Here we go into 1 to 4, where the Rebbe explains that even things which are above Ishtalshlus come through our avodah. Now let's go right down to line 10 to 12, where this is a sikha from Chelik Yud Beis, which is sikhs which is referred to in the sikhs itself. They refer back many times to this sikha, which here the Rebbe explains in this sikha here, and the same thing the Rebbe is going to explain in number 3, which is from line 13 to 13 to 30. Where the sikha and this maima, both of these are both explaining the same topics, actually the same farbrengen. One is written in a sikha format, the other is written in a maima format.
Okay.
Where the Rebbe is explaining that even though it says in Chassidus that there's certain things which we accomplish through our avodah, but then after we finish our avodah, the shleimus avodah, when we've done all our avodah, then there's something which comes from above which we cannot achieve through our avodah, which comes with b'chinas matona v'mayla isurus l'leila mitzad atzmei. So the Rebbe explains in this sikha and in this maimah that true, that is a way it is always said, and that is our way it's always presented. But because of whatever reason, as explained there, but the truth is, even that what Chassidus says is going to come from Milmaila, is going to come through us. There is nothing which doesn't come through us. And you look in the line 11, you have the very short words. The Rebbe says, Hamshochas ha'atzmos. We're talking about the Eibishter himself as above everything else. Hashem is above everything else. No, even Hamshochas ha'atzmos comes through our avodah.
Wow.
And you have the same thing. Let's go for the big number 3, where you have the same ideas explained in this Maimah here. And by Yom Yonason, I think, yes, Yom Yonason, and here you have look at line 9, and the last words highlighted, line 9. I'm sorry, line 6. The last words in line 6. What is going to be the Hamshochas ha'atzmos in your Moshiach? What is that? That the value of our avodah will be recognized. So now all of a sudden we are always talking about the Hamshochas, Moshiach, something above us, Geluyim are above us. Hamshochas ha'atzmos is the top of everything, so that's of course above us. Here the Rebbe is telling us, no, Hamshochas ha'atzmos, what is Hamshochas ha'atzmos? Our awareness of the value of our avodah. That is Hamshochas ha'atzmos, okay?
Wow.
Fine, okay. So now, then you have the same thing, which is explained elsewhere, because it's in that very same Maimon, the order that he first.
So us realizing how valuable our avodah is, that itself is a kind of, we are drawing down the etzem of the Eibishter himself into the world.
Okay, let's put it almost right. That is
Itself.
That is it. That is it.
That itself
It's
is
not.
It's not
It also
it or
that
it's
is it. That.
Wow.
Wonderful. Okay, fine. Now you have the same thing on line 9, which is the Rebbe in an order there, where the Rebbe is referring to other Mamorim, where he explains the same idea. Anyways, let's go now over to line 11. Here the Rebbe is referring to, it's the same idea, but here the Rebbe just makes it clear. But the Rebbe, he tells us here, he's quoting from Mamorim of the Rebbe Rashab Tofrei Samach Eter, where he explains, talking about Bechira, free choice. So explains there in Tofrei Samach that free choice, where is there the concept of free choice? Here in this world, here we have a choice of doing this way, that way.
Right.
So we have Bechira to choose to do this or to do that. By the Neshama L'Mayla, which is the Neshama L'Mayla is naturally attached to the Eibishter.
Right.
It's one with the Eibishter. So there's no need for free choice over there. It doesn't need to choose to connect to the Eibishter, because it's naturally connected to the Eibishter. It's one with the Eibishter. Yeah, it's united. It's one with the Eibishter. So it has a natural affinity to the Eibishter. There is no need for Bechira over there. Mm-hmm. Comes the Rebbe and tells us this. You see that. You see that right? It's highlighted on line number 13. The Rebbe tells us no. The connection of the Eibishter of the Neshama L'Mayla. Now read this. Let's listen to the words. What we're saying here. We're talking about the Neshama L'Mayla. All the way up, let's say in Atzmos, Mushrish and Atzmos, Yisrael is above everything. Yeah, which is mamish part of Atzmos. Says the Rebbe, that shleimus of this connection of the Neshama with the Eibishter all the way up there above is through Bechira. Mm-hmm. So now what happens over here, we see that this is what we assume that it's going to be a scholars of the Eibishter. And therefore, that is what we know about ourselves today, as having to connect to do something to connect ourselves to the Eibishter. The Rebbe tells us that is the way it is from the very beginning. There is no natural connection to the Eibishter, or better said, the natural connection to the Eibishter is the fact that the Neshama up there, when it's all the way up there, and Atzmos chooses to connect to the Eibishter. Now, it's not important here to understand how this works, which is not very hard, but we don't want to go into it, but just bring out the point. There is no such a thing as a default state that we're automatically connected to the Eibishter. True, Chassidus does present it that way in many places, but here the Rebbe clarifies to us and tells us, no, there is no, the default situation is where the Neshama as an entity for itself, as a separate entity, chooses to align itself with the Eibishter. So therefore, when we're looking for ourselves, like Moshe Mashiach, to go all the way to connect to the Eibishter, we're going to see the revelation of the Eibishter. The Eibishter, which we're waiting to see, reflects himself in the fact that we choose to associate ourselves with the Eibishter.
Wow.
Okay, fine. So now let's go over to page. Let's skip right over to page.
This you might say is
number
like
5.
Very, very deep concepts in Chassidus. It's not even things that we usually learn, even in the Mamorim of the Frierdiker Rebbe, the Rebbe Rashab, the Rebbe Marash, all the previous Rebbeim. You don't necessarily hear this, like almost scary side to the whole truth about the Etzem HaNeshama and how it reaches all the way in Atzmos and how it deals with Atzmos. Like you said, it isn't explained this way usually in Chassidus. This is like, you might say, a Chiddush that the Rebbe was Megala, a deeper, most secret about the times of Moshiach that the Rebbe specifically told us about, is that this is how it really works, is that our neshama chooses to connect itself to the Eibishter of Atzmos, in contrast to how we may have understood it is in the Chassidus of the Friedrich Rebbe and the Rebbe Rashab and all the previous Rebbeim.
Okay, if do me a favor, hold this question till the end.
Okay.
Hold it,
okay,
and let's try and answer it then, okay? I think it'll go very smooth when we finish.
No problem.
Okay. Let's say that. Now, here we're going, this is line 17. Here we're going to this Sikha Pashas 8 Tovshin Mentes, right?
Page 5?
On page 5,
okay.
line 17.
Okay.
So it's very simple. The wording is slightly different. It's phrased here slightly different, but the idea is just the same. Here, what the Rebbe explains that the Chayri Moshe Mashiach, there's not going to be any true avodah because there's only going to be schar, like you mentioned before. That is on lines 17 to 19. So the Rebbe goes on to explain from lines 20 to 26. No, the true avodah is going to be in your Moshe Mashiach. That is when we're going to really, on our own individual initiative, connect to the Eibishter.
Interesting.
Whereas, so that is where the avodah starts. And in the sikh of that, Rebbe goes to explain. This is the whole sikh, which have the quote in the footnotes here. Rebbe goes to explain that is the tshuva, which you all know that is a pre-phrase to the coming of Mashiach. There's a requirement that has to be tshuva. Then the Rebbe said there is something above tshuva. That is gula, and that is we choose to connect to the Eibishter. We choose, or we, in the wording here is not choice, the wording in this sikha is we from our avodah engage and connect ourselves with the Eibishter, and that is the scholars of the gula. Okay? Right. That is the sikha Pashas 8, Tovshin Mentes. Then let's skip right over to the...
So just to make sure I understood, what the Rebbe is saying there is that...
Yeah.
Because there is a perception, or it's mentioned a few other places in Chassidus, that there is something particularly precious about the time of Golus specifically, because that's when we really have Bechira Chavshis, that's when we really have the choice of free will of doing what we choose to do, and that's something that gives the Eibusher tremendous nachas. When we, in such a world with so many distractions, with the Yetzer Hara, with everything, we choose to do Torah mitzvahs, that gives the Eibusher great nachas ruach. But when Mashiach comes, in a sense, some of that is going to be lost, and in a sense, we're going to miss the avodah that used to be in the times of Golus, when we used to have real free choice. When Mashiach comes, things will be so revealed and open and great that we'll want nothing more than to choose the right thing and serve the Eibishter in the right way and do Torah mitzvahs. So, but what this is saying is actually there's going to be a greater, deeper avodah of Bechira when Mashiach comes, actually.
So now, okay, so let's not focus on the words, the word Bechira, because that is place questions, but let's go to the basic idea, the basic concept that you were saying here. So now, number one, the wording when Moshiach is going to come, it will be such and such. No, Moshiach is going to come, we will do such and such, and therefore it will be. It's just a side point. Now,
okay,
that's a very side point. Okay. That the basic main answer is what you asked about, where the chayra, we always understand the main avodah chayra, as you said, about it being a Zman HaGolus. That is very, very, very true, because the switch from our current situation to realize that we have the ability to serve our Eibishter and to actually to put ourselves into serving the Eibishter, that happens now in Zman HaGolus. Gula is a product of our realization that we have the full ability to do what the Eibishter wants. When we come to this realization that we have the full ability to do what Hashem wants, we're automatically going to do it, right? So the time when we make this switch, when we exercise our bechira, to realize that from our current situation, the way we see that we cannot do everything the Eibishter wants. We're sort of at different interferences. Everyone knows the individual situation. To change this change of realization, that happens in Zman HaGolus. So therefore, when it comes to Gula, there's going to be Elias, because this actually is mentioned in the Sikha here, in the bottom lines here. It's actually mentioned here in the bottom lines of the Sikha here. Therefore, in the Zmana, when we come to the Zmana Gula, and therefore, then we already realize that we can do what we want for the Eibush, we can do all the Torah mitzvahs, and therefore everything will be going our way. We will always be calling back to this moment when we had changed our thinking from a Golas mentality to a Gula mentality, because that is when we made the switch over, and anything we do further will always be based on that switch. So on that switch we took took place in Zman Golas. Therefore, the Etzem. One second. Where does it say this? It actually is here in very short words. It's here in the end of line 30 to 35. It's actually from 33, page number 5. 33 to 35, and it's but in short words. But Rabbi Yisrael, you asked the question, so I'm trying to answer the question, right?
Yeah.
So it's there actually in those short words, but the Nekuda is the Etzem is in Zman HaGolos. The Etzem means when the Yid exercises his Bechira to actually identify with the Eibishter, which that is, we explained, that is the Etzem on Neshama L'mayla. It identifies, it chooses to identify with the Eibishter. That is actually realized in Zman HaGolos. The Gul is only a product which follows after that. So therefore, the Etzem is the Zman HaGolos, and therefore, as the Loshen is Maskirin, Yitzis, and Tzrayim, L'Otzav, is all everything that we will grow, and in Yemois we will grow and improve ourselves and go higher. Moshiach is going to be a result of this realization. We're going to call back to our core self, our core identity, that we knew ourselves as Zman HaGolos, that we switch from this realization to that realization, and that is what's going to energize us through all the Moshiach. L'netzach is our essence, the fact that we changed from Zman HaGolos to Zman HaGula while we were in Golos.
So this already is quite a revolutionary concept, the idea that, because growing up or learning Moshiach in a peripheral or a basic way, it really seems like when Moshiach comes, it's a show that happens to us. It's a whole kind of, reward and Gan Eden and revelations and miraculous things coming down from the sky, etc., things that happen to us. Whereas here, the Rebbe is teaching us, actually, Geula, Moshiach, is something very, very active and participative. Things that we are doing bring about Geula. Things that we take part in and cause to happen is what defines that Geula happens, right? It's very different than what people generally have the impression of, wouldn't you say?
Let's go to, fine, let me just, in the Rebbe's words, just to answer this, in the Rebbe's words, on page number 7, let's go to page number 7. This is a very, very amazing sikha of Simchas Torah, Leil Simchas Torah Tovshin on base. So let's just look at the last words where the Rebbe explains the reason why the Geula has been held back till now is possible. Ula Yeshleima is because Yidden were not fully aware that Ani Leidim Vreisi El Shamish Eskoini. The meaning to say that the purpose of a Yid is L'Shamish Eskoini. The realization of the Medina B'Tachteinim is going to happen when Moshe Mashiach Moshe Mashiach will be the full realization of Dira B'Tachteinim. What is the full realization of Dira B'Tachteinim? That I will come well L'Shamesh Eskoini, that I have to be Meshamesh Eskoini. That is the full realization of your Moshe Mashiach. So, in response to your question about changing our thinking as Moshe Mashiach as something which is going to happen to us, as opposed to something that we're going to do. So you have it very clearly here in the Rebbe's words that the Moshe Mashiach is a full realization of L'Shamesh Eskoini. That is the Dira B'Tachteinim. When I come to realize that my whole Metzius is only to serve my Koina, then when I have this realization, this automatically affects the way I do my Avodah, and therefore naturally I'll be doing the Avodah without any resistance. The resistance that will be removed to my avoiding, Moshe Mashiach is coming from my awareness that my whole mitzvah is that I can overcome the resistance, and the whole mitzvah of the world is that I should serve Hashem, which will be realized then, and that will remove the resistance. Now let's go back just to the thinking you mentioned about. So now let's have it like this. Just one more point. Let's go back to page number 6, which is the Rebbe. Here, the Rebbe, let's not go into the whole Sikha here, but this is actually, this point we're going to say now, you have it repeatedly in the Sikhas, on all of them bases. It's always, you have the Koira, Achri, whatever, Yigash, where the Rebbe basically explains that the reason why we can identify with this more than in other times, because once upon a time, to tell a Yid, you know that all you have to do is come to realize that you can do a Torah without any interference, is something which was hard for a Yid to relate to. Now there is no, the world around us doesn't object to observance of Torah mitzvahs. There is no real resistance or opposition to Torah mitzvahs, and therefore today we should come to realize the real truth, that it all depends on our awareness that we can serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu and do Torah mitzvahs, and with that we bring the Gula. Now, if you want to come back to the question you asked before, is the Rebbe being Mechadish here anything? So the truth is the Rebbe is actually not being Mechadish here anything at all. This is the way the Rebbe puts it himself, the Rebbe's own words. All the Rebbe is telling us that let's put it in the words, when you start in the very beginning, that what it says in the Torah, that what Chassidus tells us about of doing Avodah means really us. So it's not Rebbe's telling us. Well, in other words, we may have thought that this is not me in my current state. No, something has to happen,
right,
and that will allow me, give me the ability to do everything what Hashem wants. So the Rebbe is telling you, it is you, and you have to do it. So there is no real chiddush here, because that is the way the Torah was from the very beginning. Okay.
Wow. So Im Bechukaisa is telling us that this is how it works in terms of going on from Golus to Geula, is don't sit around waiting for things to happen to you and then Lichsha Efne Eshne, then I could do Torah and Mitzvahs. Realize that right now we are able to do so already. Nothing is stopping us from going ahead and doing Torah and Mitzvahs, and therefore when we get our act together and go ahead and do that, that by definition is going to enact that Geula is here. And is that more or less the idea?
Well, you could say it that way. You could say it also, the awareness of a Yid that there is nothing there obstructing him from Torah mitzvahs, and it's just he has to find within himself how to increase in Torah mitzvahs or influence others in Torah mitzvahs. That itself is Gula. Why? Because once upon a time you could tell a Yid, the Hashem is bligvul, a Yid has bligvul, and a Yid can exercise his bligvul. You could tell that to a Yid. That was all true in his davening. When he davened to Hashem, he think about Hashem, then he thought about bligvul, then he may have thought about the shayrish of his neshama's bligvul. But in the tzir of Olam Hazeh, to go around and exercise your bligvul, you may very well get yourself into trouble, because in those days you couldn't really, as for the regular Yid, there were people who were more grosser Chassidim, etc., people who learned Chassidus, let's say, they knew you could affect the world, and even though they encountered a lot of objection, which was not simple as we know what happened through all the years, yeah. So they could engage this idea of affecting the world with bligvul, but for Stam Yid to attain this idea it wasn't really required from him from Papi Shulchan Aruch. Today, the Rebbe is telling us it's dependent on today when we think of this idea of bligvul, that we can sort of do what Hashem wants. So we're not thinking only in the realm of Torah and Avodah, as when we're in the shul and think about the Eibush, that we come to realize the idea of bligvul. No, we're talking about practical reality. Go around the world in a normal contact, in a way which people can relate to speaking to people, etc., etc. In that way, we can sort of bring out the bligvul of the Eibush. So that once we come to realize that we can bring out the bligvul of Torah, which you always had, the bligvul of Tefillah, which you always had. It was always there. It's nothing new. We can just now bring it out in our lives. So you're actually taking the Gula, which anyone who learned Torah once upon a time was a Ben Chayr, and you always had the Gula. When you learned Torah, when you davened to Hashem, you had the Gula in that davening. So now you have the Gula in your practical life. So when you have Gula in the practical life, according to the definitions of the Torah, that would be an aspect of Gula. So it is an aspect of Gula.
So,
Yeah.
so like in practical terms, perhaps it used to be in the past that if I, went out on the street, perhaps it was difficult sometimes, or maybe I would feel it's hard, or it's risky, or it's embarrassing to go around wearing a Jewish appearance, a beard, a yarmulke. Maybe I would feel like I can get into trouble about that. Maybe I felt like people can persecute me, or people can make fun of me, or maybe I wouldn't be able to succeed so well in my, financials, because people might not necessarily respect me fully. And perhaps there was actual persecution, and there was actual, even, unfortunate killings and pogroms and terrible things happening to you. And that's how it used to be in the past in Golus. But now, when I walk down the street, when I go to business, when I go shopping in Walmart, the whole world is actually currently a place where if I would like to feel free to be a Yid all the way, go ahead and do so. There's no one stopping you. There's no one persecuting you. There's no one that will necessarily, stand in your way or say it's wrong, or cause you to feel uncomfortable about it, or cause you trouble, or just go ahead and do so. And we just gotta realize that and feel free to live like that and enact that. Is that more or less what it's about?
Yeah, well, well, it's very, very good. But the thing is that you have to think about in the positive, being productive. In other words, just realizing this is a situation doesn't really do too much. The idea is, this was coming back to what we said before, that me as an individual, remember, once we come to realize that Gula is all about me doing what Hashem wants, and what it means, me doing what Hashem wants, means me as I know myself today, which I'm a human being and I know my abilities, I know what's going on around me, and using that in order to serve the Eibishter. So once we understand that would mean not only taking advantage of the situation and managing to go around with my tzitzis hanging out. No, that's not what it is. It is me, as I know myself, using the tools of logic and common sense, whatever extent I was given by Hashem, taking that and using that to bring out the realization of Gula. Because remember, Gula is all about me finding in myself the way I know myself, in my mitzvahs of Zman HaGolus. Remember, the base, our core identity, our etzem, is always going to be the etzem that we, as we know ourselves now today in Zman HaGolus. That is our etzem, which is going to carry us all through the Gula. So me, as I know myself today, finding within myself to bring the full realization of the Kvon of the Dir. That means poshet, interacting with people on their level, understanding them, and bringing the message. And the idea of the Gula is that if I will be aligned with what the Rebbe wants, with what the Eibusha wants, I can find the ways, the means of communications, how to get this message to myself and to everybody around me. So it's not only taking advantage of the situation, being aware of the situation and enjoying it, which is all wonderful. No, it's actually using your human logic and creativity to actually bring this out in normal life.
Let me just rattle off to you a few possible practical ideas, perhaps, and you tell me if that's possibly along the right lines or if it's a little bit off. Or let's say if we look out in the world nowadays, a lot of interesting things are happening. Emertz Hashem, Baruch Hashem, probably all of us are busy most of the time raising our Hasidic families and learning Torah and doing mitzvahs. We're not necessarily paying too much attention to whatever other things are going on in the world, but some things perhaps that have some interesting lessons that we can use in Avodas Hashem is there are new approaches to things out there in the world nowadays that people are starting to do. People are making like videos that they're putting up on the internet, where today I went onto the subway and I did a very funny, interesting thing on the train, which everyone laughed and everyone thought it was funny. Or today we went to a big shopping center and the whole store was dancing or something. Or today we went to the Eiffel Tower and we made a big surprise. And people do some things like that because it's entertaining and because it's interesting and it changes and it makes people think and it makes people happy. So what if, for example, a chassid decides, hey, look, the world is already a place, according to what we're learning, where the realization of the truth of God having created the world for a purpose and that we're all here to serve Him, this is an idea that's really cool and amazing and exciting, and it's good to share that with people out there. So let's make a flash mob dance at Times Square, where we spread the message to everyone there out in public. Hey, everyone! It's a wonderful world after all. Let's make a perfect world of peace. Let's spread a message of kindness and goodness. Let's all live peacefully together. Is that perhaps an expression of like, yeah, this is a world where we can do things like that, so let's just spread the word and talk about it. If we have an opportunity to go perhaps on some show on TV and talk with people about it, like you said, in a acceptable way, in a way that the message comes across, that it's interesting, that it's acceptable. If there is someone doing other things like that, and people that do vloggings, or people that do shows, or people that do all sorts of public engaging things in terms of spreading the message that, hey, this world is an amazing world that Hashem created for us to realize we can make the best amazing world out of this. Are those perhaps some ideas that if we were brave enough we should be pursuing and trying to do to spread these words and spread these ideas and messages?
Specific ideas, I don't know how
Depends,
I don't know how to answer you for specific ideas. I didn't say it depends. I don't know how to answer you because you're talking about going to going there, so it's not something which I have too much I know so well about. But the rules are very, very simple. All the rules have been laid. In other words, there's no new rules. The rules have been laid out to us from Matan Torah all the way along. So there's all the rules are there, and then you have, especially if you have from the Rebbe, all the rules. The Rebbe tells us how you go. There's again. So the Nakuda is it has to make sense to you. Whatever you're doing, remember you're talking about Gula. Gula means not giving up my life for Hashem, because that was at the time of Avodah Zman HaGolus.
Right.
We gave up our life, we sacrificed a life, we defied everyone around us. Yeah, no, the Gula is when we interact with the world can find meaning in what we have to say, and so etc. etc. That means that we are going to fully understand what we're doing. It's going to make full sense. It's going to be very logical. So whatever is logical to you and makes sense to you, Gesundheit, go and do it. And then you have the rules that I've said, you mashpiyim, go to ask your friend. So that's the world is not, remember, we're talking about the same world as today, right?
Right.
Just making it better. So the rules which the Rebbe laid down are remaining there. They're not disappearing. Okay.
This same world that we're talking about, by the way, out there they are doing a lot of much crazier things than what I described already. It's already a world where people are doing things like that for purposes of advertising, for purposes of shtus and entertainment. And halavai, perhaps some of us decided, hey, what if we could do those kinds of things for the purpose of spreading the ideas that the Rebbe tells us is already ready to be spread out there? I mean, let's put it this way. Is it true or is it not true that, let's say, between now and when the Geula will be a lot more visibly revealed, the world, the common person walking down the street, going to the store shopping, will be actively aware and realizing that God created this world and that this world exists to serve God? Is that not what it's going to end up being? Because right now, it seems like when I walk down the street or when I go shopping in the store, not everyone necessarily realizes this. Many people deny this. There are so-called atheists out there that will argue for all sorts of scientific reasons that there is no God that created the world, and that's not what it's all about. And it doesn't seem like that is that way right now. So that's point A. Point B is ideally we are at a point where every person out there, or many, many, many more people out there, are actively aware, sharing, and celebrating the fact that this is an amazing world, this is God's world, and we are here to serve God. So from point A to point B, I mean, I'm just asking, what are the steps? Aren't there steps that we need to take to get to point B? That really, like in a widespread manner out there, there's realization of the truth?
So I don't know what steps have to be taken,
but the steps are true. They have to be taken.
1 second.
Sorry, go ahead.
Possible. But I just would like to take the way you phrase it about knowing God. So that's very wonderful. Knowing God is very amazing. But remember, we're talking about God. We're talking about something above us, something abstract. Okay. So let us understand Gula the way it's discussed in the Rebbe's Sichos, or the way it's discussed in the Rambam. Gula, which means more to us, when that the Gula is going back to the words which we had before, the Maisa of the Tachten, that is Iskalas Ha'atzmos. That means the Iskalas Ha'atzmos comes through us. So instead of thinking about God, which is something there in my mind, let's think about it that the Gula means that I can interact with other people. I can interact with the Goyim and tell them how to conduct themselves better. I can smile at more people. God does not have to be an act. When we're talking about Gula is not going to be an act, and Hashem will not be an abstract entity. This is what we had said before from the Maimah. When our Maisa, that is our Maisa, is Galas Atzmos. So therefore, when we will be Eskalas Ha'atzmos, the Hashem which we're talking about is actually going to be seen in the fact the way I relate to all other people. Because the way the Rambam puts it, you're going to have Kibbutz Nidchi Yisrael. All Yidden are going to come to a common understanding that we have to do the same thing. All Goyim are going to come to the common understanding. So basically, when we talk about seeing God, you think of it in practical terms as being able to communicate to all people how we should live in harmony together, etc., etc.
And that
so think of that. That would be l'chayre his galas atzmos. Okay.
Amazing. Okay, well, okay. Do you have any other final ideas or thoughts to share with us on this topic? What else do you think is something that we should be aware of, or that people watching should know, or what's the next step we could take to make this all a reality?
I don't have anything on my mind at this moment, and
basically we've said it all.
And okay, I have nothing really.
All right. Well, Shkoyach, Rabbi Shtroks, I really, really appreciate you coming here, especially since just the mere fact of us discussing about this, first of all, it helps me personally a lot to really identify with all this and to try to see what's the next way in which I could live more with this and do it and really enact it. And hopefully, Hiratzin, that this helps maybe another person watching and maybe another few people watching, that we can all start feeling that that's it, this is official. We're talking about it, we're discussing it, we're finally getting down to it, figuring it out, and we're going to make it happen. And thanks to you, I think, Baruch Hashem, we're another step closer. So shkoyach very, very much. And Emir Hashem, Moshiach should already be revealed.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Shkoyach. Thank you so much.